the Department of Informatics, Faculty of Business, and the Department of Forensic Engineering, Brno University of Technology. He also lectured at the Faculty of Law of Masaryk University in Brno, Thomas Bata University in Slane, and at the European Polytechnic Institute in Kunovice. His area of interest is the use of soft computing methods and artificial intelligence, such as fuzzy logic, artificial neural networks, evolutionary algorithms, and chaos theory in business, public services, and information management. He worked as an economic and organizational consultant in private companies and institutions, was chairman and member of the board of directors in companies, and a member of scientific and doctoral boards. He is a member of international institutions, program committees, scientific and advisory committees and councils, scientific boards of publishers, journal editors, member of the Barclay Initiative in Soft Computing, Society of Computational Economics, Association for Computing Machinery. He has published hundreds of articles at home and abroad. He collaborated on GSER and TSER projects. He worked as an API application developer. He has lectured at various universities. In Europe, Constantine the Philosopher University in Nitra, Nottingham Trent University, Ariel University in Africa, Ain Shams University, in USA, Dominican University, the University of Chicago, and in Asia, Kathmandu University and National Shengchi University in Taiwan. Sir, the podium is all yours. Thank you. Sir, you can come from that.
2, 3, 4. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes? Okay? Okay? That if no, I have a strong voice, therefore. Do you hear me? Then I will be speaking more. Yes? Okay, therefore I will not be using this wrong. Therefore, we meet for the second time. I think that you were all, nearly all of you were on this morning lecture. In case of not, therefore, my name is Peter Dostal, and I'm from who wasn't here in the morning, therefore I tell you only a few words about me, or it was said, therefore my name is Peter Dostal, and I am functioning, I'm from Brno University of Technology, from Czech Republic, and go. Okay, therefore, and as it was said, Professor Jana prepared this 5 days meetings, which was named or 1 week international symposium, which was mentioned the scope of international research and collaboration. Therefore, it will be this rectorate has with the rector has such a faculties. You can see from, for example, I discussed some of them that are also faculty of chemistry is here, faculty of electrical engineering, architecture, civil engineering, mechanical engineering. I am absolvent of mechanical engineering, and so on and so on. And here you can see faculty of business and management. As I said, that business, economy, and management is very important. When you produce some product, you must sell it, and sometimes it's much more difficult to sell it, this product, than to produce. And therefore, you can see here that there is a building of faculty of business and management, something like here. We have different shape of our faculty. And therefore, faculties have also departments, and the department of economics, finance, management, and we are both my colleagues are department of informatics. You can see some buildings inside some hall in this faculty, this area, and of course, if some similar, some lecture halls are presented here. Well, what will be our topic for this and next day? Therefore, has various also topics. One of them is fuzzy logic, neural networks, evolutionary algorithms, which are used for the optimization, and also theory of chaos. Therefore, nowadays, I think that the chaos is a very important word, because even now, for example, when you have some schedule which was quite, and the reality is quite different, therefore we start in different time and different topic, therefore Professor Jana hasn't started yet, therefore we'll change this lecture hour. And of course there will be combination of the models. I can start, for example, for this with fuzzy logic. This other topics will be presented next meetings. Maybe if there will be some time, we can say something about theory of chaos. Well, therefore, first branch, there are so many branches of software computing, of artificial intelligence, is a fuzzy logic. Therefore, how is the principle of fuzzy logic? Maybe you are, some of them, you are specialists on the fuzzy logic, therefore it was nothing new, but you are the students, maybe you will hear new information what is fuzzy logic. The founder of this fuzzy logic is Professor Zadek. It was my friend. He died 97 years old, about 5 years ago. Yes, he signed his body in 1921. He was from Azerbaijan, and then he moved to Berkeley University of California. Therefore, usually simple things which are very useful are very simple, and therefore, what was his idea? You know, binary logic. It's 0 or 1 when you express it mathematically. Therefore, for example, 0 means no, no light, 1, yes light. It's okay, it helps us. Therefore, it was Lukashevich created some theory and complicated that there was no yes and something maybe between that. It's not black, it's not dark, yes, and therefore we need something to describe the situation more better. For example, if there will be black color all across, it will be number 1, that is black, and vice versa, if it will be white, it will be 0. And the idea, when you go from no, yes, or no, maybe yes, therefore he established, he was a mathematician, therefore he created so-called membership function, and it means that the value, if it's normalized, the value is from 0 to 1, but it's not only 0 and 1, and it's any value from 0 to 1. Therefore, for example, shadow color could be that there is 0.5 of white color and 0.5 black color. When you mix it 50 to 50, for example, you can create color. Therefore, explanation was, therefore this description was much more better, and therefore he started to theory how to work with this theory. Therefore, the bases are membership functions from 0 to 1, or in economy it could be from 0 to 100%, or for example it could be from 0 to 200 centimeters, because we can also describe how tall is the man or women. Therefore, this is the range, but for mathematicians it's better and it's normalized from 0 to 1. Therefore, what is there are 3 stages which are called fuzzification, fuzzy inference, and defuzzification. It means the main advantage of fuzzy logic is that you are using vague terms. Therefore, like Professor Zadek said, that it's difficult to describe something in the nature that it's precisely. For example, to have on mind, for example, when there was an anemometer measuring the speed of wind, it was difficult to, and only vague terms was describing the situation. No wind, severe wind, hurricane or something like this, how it was done by the sailors. Therefore, they have no anemometer, and it was impossible to say that the speed of the wind was 200 kilometers per hour, but only you have to say, for example, it's 2 meters high waves on the sea or something like this. Therefore, this translation of some phenomena in nature and especially also in economy, it's very important because it's difficult to measure. How we can measure, for example, investment, how risky is the investment. We have no any thermometer to measure that it's 50% risk, 60% risk. But we can use weight term that the risk is no risk, not usual, but low risk, medium risk, high risk, very high risk, and so on. Therefore, it could be some data here, or it could be some weight terms, which is perfect, and it's translated in computer to, and this process is called classification, and it goes to second, which is very important, is fuzzy interface system, which works with fuzzy terms. Therefore, I told you very low, low, medium, high, very high risk, and so on. And how it works, it's addition. Therefore, it's based on some model. Therefore, you can see that there is a model inside is the fuzzy inference, and it means I have some input that goes for the processing, so-called fuzzy inference, and the result goes out. Therefore, membership functions as various shapes. You can see P, lambda, Z, and S, which are used for the description of. What does it mean if there will be a graph? Therefore, 1, there is a 0, therefore the phenomena is increasing, and then there will be top number 1 or value 1 or 100, and then goes down. Therefore, for example, if the lecture is starting, it will be better to describe here. For example, they tell that it's of medium height, and it will be, for example, 150 centimeters will be fully 100% true that this man or women is medium size, and also that it will be decreasing, and also, of course, 200 centimeters high person will not be described by their term that it's a middle size. It will be something like here, and vice versa it goes here. Therefore, it's called such fuzzy numbers are used. Therefore, in graphical math, for example, 3 is only 1 point, and in fuzzy logic it could be some range from here to here. Therefore, for example, when this lecture starts here, yes, it will be, for example, about 3 p.m. Therefore, there will be some of you will come earlier, yes, and some will came late. Therefore, it describes much more better that at that time there was all members of the lecturers, and before it was decreasing. Therefore, if there will be some counter coming as therefore it's membership functions, and therefore inputs and also outputs are used. Therefore, there is an example. For example, this is quite clear to all of you. All of you need, you want to build a house, to buy a car or something like money, some loan, mortgage or something like this will be given to you. Therefore, it could be used this article, and therefore they ask you how high is income, and you can you don't use precise number. You said, for example, I have a low income, and then ask you for the property. Therefore, you said I have low property, and therefore, what will be result? Therefore, conditional clauses are this very important fuzzy determinant, and in our simplest model, we just input for the income, input for the loan. Therefore, it goes in this process, and there is conditional clauses. If there is low income and low property, that means loan will not be provided to you. Yes? And vice versa, it will be if you said I have high income, high property, therefore this process is evaluating that the output, yes, that loan was given to you. Of course, in real banks, it's used in US banks. When I was Bank of America or something like this, it's used. Of course, there are not only two inputs, it's simple model, but it can be, I have PhD students or prepare diploma paper students, he or she works with this, therefore does about 20 inputs. You can even you said me what will be, except of income and property, what you will be asking as a bank clerk, much more information for this system. Income, property, what is important? Another. Age, yes? It's quite different if you are a very old man, it will be problem to receive a loan, or very young. Therefore, it could be age and many other. If you are single, if you are married, if you have children or something like this. Therefore, in the bank there is, for example, 15 inputs. It's evaluated, and there will be outputs in weight terms also, that if the loan will be provided to you or not. And this weight term could be also to opposite process of classification, declassification, that it will, the value will be written in weight terms, that the clerk is given information, no money will be given to you, or yes. Therefore, it's used quite often, and what is the advantage? Therefore, when such Bank of America has daily thousands and thousands evaluation of mortgages or loans, therefore this process is very quick, and it's not influenced by some officers or something like this. Therefore, it's clear if this money is given to you or not. Of course, these rules must be created. Therefore, there is a creation of the model. There is a creation of the model when this group, by discussion, yes, some discussion create these rules, and therefore these rules are put inside, then automatically it's done without clerk. It's done the evaluation if it's a mortgage or loan will be provided or not. Therefore, once more, what is important to repeat, Professor Zadek, who creates a theory, not only 0 and 1, it's a two possible status, was use member state functions, which have lambda p as the shape, and on the inputs and outputs would be weight terms, which are perfect, especially for using in economy, but also in another field. First application of fuzzy logic was done in Japan, where Hikari Express, maybe you saw, Hikari Express is this movement is done by its regulation, is with the help of fuzzy logic, and therefore I wasn't in Japan, but when they told me that the movement of Hikari was very, very smooth, therefore acceleration and deceleration. Therefore, it's one of many applications, and you can find it in various countries. Well, therefore, I have some here applications, real applications from the bank, for example, where you can see there is not only one, like in the previous, I had only one block. Yes, it's called rule box when there is some this conditional clauses for evaluation, but it could be grouped in some. It's evaluate will be project assessment depending on location and workmanship. Application assessment depends on your assessment income, and there was very interesting rule box, so-called killer criteria. Therefore, the income and interest plays very important role. Therefore, from these two blocks, it goes into the blocks, and this can, even if something is bad for the bank, it means that this mortgage, loan, or credit will be cancelled for you. Advantage of this fuzzy logic is that it's very understandable, and you can discover which rule was create the result. Next day I will be discussing neural networks, where it's different things that the neural networks, especially in computer, is like in our brain. It's something and it's called as a black box. Therefore, we don't know why the result is of such a way. And therefore, because some applications are, which was done by me or by my, therefore, you know that also here there is a cyber risk, therefore that your computer will be caught by the virus, yes, and therefore it must do some evaluation, and also something is not possible to measure. Therefore, you can see who are specialists on the or will be specialists on cyber risk management. Therefore, evaluation high cyber risk. Therefore, you can see if this model used some firm, for example, who is responsible for and fight with the attacks of not only computers but all the whole networks. I don't know how is it in India, but I think also, for example, in Czech Republic, for example, hospitals where there was an attack of hackers on the of computers, on networks, and therefore completely it's a disaster because it stops everything. Doctors have no any information because computers haven't worked yet. Therefore, you can see here, and it's quite clear, for example, first one, that it depends, evaluation of cyber risk, it depends on the firm type, yes, if it will be some military service or something like this, it's much more, it must be searched more precise if there is a cyber risk management than if it is, or of course in medical, in hospitals, it will be very important. Also, it depends on the firm size. If it will be small company, it's not so high cyber risk like big company like IBM or You have Alibaba, yes, and also some companies or something like this. Sector, it means which sector you are, and there are some more details if you are protected by the firewalls or not, if you are using some antivirus programs or something like this. Therefore, on this weight terms, or usually are weight terms, low, medium, and very high. Therefore, there is a rule box, which is this fuzzy interface process, and it goes to evaluation how high will be financial losses and number of attacks. Therefore, if it's the higher risk, you must do management, do some restrictions to buy some new software, better software, which is resistant against attacks or something like this. Therefore, one application, and you have another application, stock trend prediction. Therefore, Susanna, which is here, to also interest in the prediction or movement on the stock market. Therefore, you must evaluate it if some currency ratio, some share, commodity, or something like this you buy. If you, this, for example, share, buy, sell, hold, or something like this. You can see when they were drawing by myself, you can see that these membership functions which are created by the program, and you can see here that you have, for example, you decided if you want to, you have owner of some shares, and you will be evaluating, according to these inputs, you will be evaluating what to do with the share, for example, and output cell will be used strong sell, no activity, buy, and strong buy. Therefore, there will be, for example, IBM share, therefore, you make the decision if you have it, if it's immediately to sell it, or no activity, or immediately buy because it brings you profits. And what is, as I said, cooperation of Brno University and Haldia University was in this, and Professor Jana says, yes, we solve it, therefore it's more complicated. Somebody to Professor Zadek said, yes, it's a fuzzy, but it's some shape of triangle, yes, and so on. A trapezoidal shape from the mathematical point. Therefore, he used second dimension. Therefore, it's such shape, and the uncertainty isn't done only in two-dimensional graph like it was in previous time. And here you can see that there are two levels. It was partially simplified. Therefore, it's different software which process and describe test which models are best, which membership functions are best to use for the process of evaluation of the stocks or something like this. And in the field of consumption of energy, you can see some pictures that there are new articles and new research, and therefore I hope that it will be our research with your institute, that not only two-dimensional uncertainty and three-dimensional uncertainty, which describes better the real situation, and it gives you better, would give you better result. This 3 type was used, for example, for evaluation of consumption and energy. Then the complicated process is that this energy went from the solar panels, from the wind, yes, from geothermal temperature, and it would be some more from chemical reactions or something like this. And here, chemical processes are very complicated to describe by similar ways. And therefore, you can, Professor Kumar has excellent articles, therefore, to us to do some study with his or friends about PhD studies or something like this. There is some literature how to study logic is used. Well, and therefore you can see that there wouldn't be only this trapezoidal shape or other shapes. It could be also the shapes of spline curves. Yes, and you can see here spline curve something like this. And therefore, what is the principle? There is an input, some outputs, and membership functions, and you can see some. You can make some description of surfaces among the input about the rules. Yes, how it is described. For example, for this simple model, what does it mean for the bank? If there will be low property and low income, no money will be given to you. We are here, yes, not on the here. Here is the position where it says low property and high income, and it means no money will be provided. And vice versa, if there will be high income, low property, no money will be given to you. And you can see that it's on Z, it's very high income here, that the money will be given to you. Therefore, the specified values could be yes, if not in these three cases here, but in these cases, that the loan is provided to you. There are special fuzzy methods of addition, subtraction, multiplication, something like this. Therefore, you can see when you are using this type of Sageno model type that there is no 100%. And except this weight terms, you can found in xy, you found some point here, the point will be 75%, but something like this, and it's up to you if it's evaluated, it's a high risk, low risk, or something like this. And because it's a very popular topic, fuzzy logic, for the students studying advanced decision making, who led Susanna, therefore I gave him, for example, you can, me or Susanna, give us, you can solve any problem which you have. For example, it's not so simple when you want to buy a new mobile phone. Yes, there are hundreds of mobiles, and what is the best one is difficult for you, but on the other side you want to know some parameters which you want to have your mobile phone. Therefore, they create this model called evaluation model, which is unified because you do it for yourself, or unique for the bank, which has some rules which money will be given to somebody or not. For example, if there will be some description of price, because price plays an important role. Therefore, you can describe by this membership function that you want to buy very cheap mobile, and vice versa, no, very expensive, and therefore this input price influence the decision, or fuzzy influence the conditional fuzzy rules, and it gives you some information when you put it concrete mobile, if it's okay or not. And therefore this mishmash of letters or words is where it was used. Therefore, what you can evaluate, what you want, for example, bicycles, where to go, in which restaurant to go, which web hosting will be best for you. You need graphic cards into the computer. Therefore, you will be evaluating. Therefore, we have many words when the students, it helps the students as her works at the seminars, and then continues on diploma paper. It's more serious solution, more something stop this for a PhD to study. Therefore, you can see everything, which magazine to subscribe, yes, which yoga style is the best for you. And Professor Jana likes yoga style, therefore it will be for him, yes. Even such funny partner for the life will be the best, and so on. And of course, much more serious thing, which aircraft will be the best, which car will be the best, or which house to buy. Therefore, there was, for example, automated process when search in the databases for empty houses, and therefore this process evaluated which one, according to rules, including salary, will be best to buy for this. Therefore, there are so many things which is possible solve, and maybe at your universities you found it. It's not difficult. Students like it, and therefore, in some subject, maybe you will be the solution. For example, what's unusual for me was some Chinese students at our university. Which doctor will be best to you? Because doctor in China, when you visit doctors, it's very expensive, and therefore you search which doctor is better, and maybe cheaper or something. Somebody has evaluating dog or something another. Therefore, I think therefore I will be 3 times. I think that you are tired, and it's enough for you, because next, as Professor Jana, if it's okay this time, I can open discussion. I think it's something new for you. Therefore, maybe there was an application. I have an when you found it for what it's for, and if it helps you, then it's better to start some theory how to help it. Of course, it exists 2 variants or more variants. Simple one, when the software Excel is used for this evaluation, is done, and also if you want to do it on a higher level, exists a metric laboratory program. It's owned by the Haldia institution. It's true, Professor. Hello. Ooh. Yes. Therefore, that this matrix laboratory is possible to use by the students at the faculty or at home. They loaded it, and they can start with the fuzzy logic theory. You can start with this simple model when you will be creating that you are an owner of the bank, and your product will be to give loans some people, and that you will be evaluated if it's low income property. And when you this mechanism will be therefore you can do more and more complex banks. As I said, I don't know if it was in India, but in America, yes, it's used. That Okay?
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir, for this very interesting, speech.
Thank you.
Sir covered areas of how fuzzy logic can be, how fuzzy logic studies involves the study in economy, cyber risk management, prediction of stock markets, and it seems that it is useful in every field. Now, since sir's speech is over, it is open for discussion. I request our participants to pose. If you have any questions, sir is ready to answer for you.
Professor, you have given fuzzification followed by fuzzy inference and then defuzzification. So essentially, you are, according to this diagram, it appears that you are starting with some crisp data and then giving to a process of fuzzification, which is sometimes very complex. You come to a fuzzified environment. And then there are fuzzy inference rules, basically the fuzzy logic, which is an extension of the ordinary logic in most of the cases, but not all the cases, not in all the cases, I suppose. And then you go for defuzzification. And there is no unique way of defuzzifying. There are different algorithms for defuzzification, and finally you arrive at the crisp data, and based on the crisp data, you give some decision. Because just basing on the fuzzy data, you cannot give decision due to the fact that fuzzy itself, entails uncertainty, and in a process of decision, you will have to come out of the uncertainty to have something very concrete in your hand. Sure. Now, one criticism against the whole process is that the fuzzification and defuzzification processes are too much subjective and may lead to subjective errors and may be misleading. What is your opinion about it?
Thank you for the question. Therefore, very important thing is not only creating the model, but also testing it and then the verification. Therefore, in this case, especially there are good applications even in regulation, like the speed of the Hikari Express or something like this, when it works very smoothly, yes. And you must convert it. The defuzzification is very important because there are no used wave terms, and this used by like centroids or something like this are used as the output for this. Therefore, it can work in economic field. You can finish at these wave terms, yes. And therefore, my idea is if it's okay or not model, therefore I return to the practice if it works. Yes? Therefore, if it's well tuned, tuning is very important. Well tuned, therefore and you will be using the system in bank. The bank, there is no bankruptcy of these banks. Yes, there is no crash of the train. Therefore, it's very difficult to make some evaluation. Yes, you can do it like Susanna do various membership functions, what's the best one, and therefore it was returned to the practice if it earns you money in previous times, like a test, if this model was, such shape was used or not.
So finally, we will have to go to the practical situation in order to see whether this is tallying with the practical situation.
Yes.
And that is by virtue of that and by the force gathered from those observations, you can I should say, project certain methods for the prediction of that. That is possibly the only way of, rather only justification of using the
verification is very important.
Right, it's very important. My second question is that fuzzy deals with uncertainties. There are certain other uncertainties which can also be dealt with probabilistically. Now, probability has a very strong, foundation in random experiments. But in fuzzy, you don't have such foundations. So my question is that if the situation is a probabilistic situation, uncertainty is a probabilistic uncertainty, can you give to it an alternative fuzzy treatment by a fuzzy method?
I can say yes, that is possible, and because I'm specialized in modeling, yes, therefore you are various competitions, yes, and therefore I focus on the, therefore you can use any models, which one is to more details, maybe it helps, if you help me, you can say more precisely, like a method.
I can explain this part. So actually, Professor Jade has invented this idea in 1965. This is too old. Actually, main problem is that suppose one student will come tomorrow college, the probability is 0.5, and another B student, A and B student will come. If you take the intersection in probability theory, it will be the multiplication. A intersection B equal to PA into PB. So that type of concept, if you introduce in fuzzy set theory, there will be some mistakes. So that's why Professor Liu, Boarding Liu, has visited our university 2 to 3 times. He invented by probability theory new concept is uncertainty theory. So there are some lacunas. I cannot declare that the Professor Jade's innovation was wrong. So there are some mathematical dilemma or this. Everybody trying to establish their phenomena. So those who are interested in work on different uncertainty, you have to study the Liu books, Professor Liu books. So that's the way. Actually, the way of approach how you handling your uncertainties, the way you have to choose the way. The Professor Peter Dostel optimized his uncertainty using Professor Jade's innovations, and I basically use both. Liu uncertainty and this, and it is your duty. What tomorrow you will use is your question to you.
Yes. Therefore, thank you for saying something
one
like.
thing is, yes, Professor Liu is an ardent critic of Professor Jade.
Yes,
So there are many approaches to the uncertain situation. To be more precise, what I was trying to convey is that based on fuzzy theory, you have something possibilistic theory and possibility measures.
Yes.
And on probability theory, you have the probability measure, which is the conventional measure theory. Only the probability measure you have Beck-Levy's theorem and etc. The full, elaborated measure theory is there. But in possibility, you don't have. So my more precise mathematical question is that what a possibility theory can do and what a probability theory cannot do. This is what I am trying to learn.
Yes. Okay, I have a different view on this, like as mathematicians like Professor Jana has some opinion and can answer. I'm from this point of application. Therefore, if you are on a business and you will be some black box, and inside the investor will be asking, who earn me as much money as much? And it was no question, philosophical question, what is better? In this field, for example, in this case, it will be best fun. Or it can be even in prediction, for example, I was a member of the International Institution of Forecasters, yes? And therefore, it was regular competitions that gives you about 100 curves from the history. Nobody knows the future, and it was evaluated hundreds and hundreds methods, the prediction, and only one was the winner. Yes?
So we should So according to professor who told me, finally our approach to uncertainty is ending in a philosophy. And that word was used by professor, and this is the, I should say, the crux of the whole argument, that there are different approaches to the problems of uncertainty and other problems arising out of it. And the truth possibly is this one, that one theory can do something, the other theory cannot do something. Possibly professor will agree with me. So, okay, thank you.
Yes. And
Thank you so much, Professor Dostal, for this very engaging discussion, and especially the last part where Professor Chaudhary and Professor Jana, they all engaged in this wonderful talk. So it was really interesting. Thank you so much. Now, may I request Dr. Vinayak Chaudhary sir to give his talk on the new technology. But before he does that, I'd just like to go through his short bio note. Dr. Vinayak S. Chaudhary is Professor of Mathematics at Indian Institute of Engineering Science and Technology, Shibpur, West Bengal. He obtained Masters and PhD degrees in Mathematics from University of Calcutta. He has more than 3 decades of teaching experience, of which more than 18 years is in the post of professor. He has served his institute as head of the Department of Mathematics and also as dean of the institute. Professor Chaudhary has published about 300 research articles in different areas of pure and applied mathematics and in theoretical physics like topology, functional analysis, differential geometry, decision science, chaotic dynamics, optimization, general relativity, cosmology, atomic collision theory, quantum mechanics, and foundations of physics. Particularly in functional analysis, he has published more than 100 research papers. Till now, 25 students have obtained their PhD degrees under his guidance. Professor Chaudhary has delivered invited lectures widely across the world. He has served several academic bodies, committees and councils in India and abroad. Beyond usual professional activities, he takes keen
Good afternoon, everybody. So, going to discuss a topic which I have designated as the I will be very brief in my presentation because Professor Jana has not allowed too much time for me. So, anyway, and it will become very general description because I see a heterogeneous population in front of me, especially the students. And the students are, I presume, predominantly students of technology. Now, I will begin with a question: what is technology? Because topic is new technology. What is technology? It consists of ways and means of controlling environment. And second thing is that it is use of natural laws, and it is an application of science. So for every technology there should be an underlying science. And what a technology is not, it is not a mastery over nature. We should always keep it in mind that we cannot achieve mastery over nature by technology because technology is essentially a use of natural laws. You can use electromagnetic law in your communication, but you cannot alter the electromagnetic law. The Maxwell's equation, what you have to do is in accordance and in consonance with the Maxwell's equations. But you cannot alter Maxwell's equation. This is primary. And it is never possible to have a mastery over nature in this manner. Now, why I tell it and why I stress it will be clear as I proceed to the last slide. Now, there are different stages of technology. The first one is mechanical technology. What is a mechanical technology? It is use of mechanical laws of nature, even when the laws of nature were not even known. Throwing a javelin in a sports meet or throwing a javelin whatever in a war situation is also a technology. Bows and arrows are technological demonstrations, although at that time a formal theory of elasticity or a formal theory of Newtonian mechanics was not available. Still it was technology, and it was mechanical technology. Then came the thermodynamics, and classical mechanics coupled with it gave us wonderful demonstrations of technology like steam engines and etc. This was a technological revolution which is commonly known as it occurred in Europe, which is commonly known as the Industrial Revolution. And then came electrical technology, which is in use in this era. What it can do? Everything, every use of technology is an electrical technology. Also, we have not rejected mechanical technology, it is also there. Electromechanical systems are also there, combining of the two. What is an example? Yes, computer is an example. And how far it can help you? Yes, it can help you in many ways. If I have some cell in my body and it has to be taken out, then I can put some robotic type of hand there, micro robotic hand there, and then operate the computer and see it and then cut it off from my body. This is a technology. By virtue of it, I can send a spacecraft to Mars, and then applying a robotic hand can just pick up one piece of stone from Mars and put it back in my spacecraft and get it back in my laboratory in supposedly somewhere near to Haldia. This is possible. Everything is electrical technology, and the guiding principle for that technology amazingly and surprisingly are the four Maxwell's equations. So at the root of technology which we are using, there are not too many of laws. One is the law of mechanics given by Newton and its many variants. The other is the electrical Maxwell's laws, and definitely there are principles of thermodynamics, but it has many variants and many corollaries out of it, which are then applied to bring out the whole, I should say, whole mechanism of technology which we are using. We are using communications. You are talking to your friends through your mobile phones, seeing the picture of your friend through some app. Everything is electrical technology. Now, there is another type of technology which is knocking at the door. And this technology is going to use certain laws. It's called quantum technology. You must be hearing something about quantum computers or like that. So in this domain, we are going to use quantum laws. In addition to the laws which we are already using, the law of mechanics, classical mechanics, the law of electricity and magnetism, that is electrodynamics, and now quantum laws. And the technology based on quantum laws is known as quantum technology. Be it clear that if you say that just give us a machine which is based on quantum laws, I will not be able to just demonstrate or show you such a machine. Why? Because this is a growing technology and a futuristic technology. Now we realize that there is a vast possibility in the bosom of nature which can be explored and which is quantum by its very nature. It can be put to use. Now we understand this one. And when it is put to use, then possibly certain miraculous things can be done. And this is the future of technology, futuristic technology, whose possibilities and the engineering part, that is the making of the quantum machines, are in progress. Possibly, a full-scale quantum technology will not be seen by this generation. It is going to be the next century technology. But unless you prepare yourself, unless you work towards bringing out in the 22nd century, supposedly. Now, what quantum technology is, I will elaborate a little bit. And because I told you that this is a general audience and a discussion on quantum technology in technical terms, I should say, will take us to certain mathematical and physical details which will be understandable only when we make a detailed study of those systems. And as I told you that this is a heterogeneous audience, and especially the students are there, I will just, not really always qualitative, but I will just give an outline of what is quantum technology. Now, quantum physics is not just the invention of yesterday. Quantum mechanics existed for about 100 years. It began with the Planck's law of radiation. But incidentally, I will not say unfortunately, incidentally, we don't yet have a very successful and very satisfactory quantum theory which can give a proper explanation of nature. And as I told you, these are the words that I uttered, that I told you, that today the technology is today taking shape. and it is a technology of the future. So, let me pass a little quickly. What is some prominent areas of quantum technology is quantum computing, quantum cryptography, quantum sensing, quantum communication systems, of which quantum cryptography is very near to applications. And today there are actually applications of quantum cryptography, especially in different sectors. In cryptography, what we do is that we do two things. One is we protect the data or the message, and second thing is that we break the codes and just access the message, which is called the hacking. And it was believed that quantum way of making cryptography will just remedy the first one, that it is difficult, if not impossible, to break the quantum codes. Unfortunately, it came out that quantum codes can be broken, but that too in a quantum way. So this is something which is nearest to application. This one. Now I will give certain glimpses of it. First is the quantum computer. What is a quantum computer? Very simple answer to it. When a computer runs on laws of quantum mechanics, what are the principal actions of a computer? It is storage of data and performing computation, essentially so. If you want to just talk about computer in a very heuristic way or in a very crude way, you can see that these are performed by quantum laws. It uses qubits in place of bits. This is the vital thing. It is supposed to outperform even the best available supercomputer of today. This is the power of technology which we will gain if someday quantum computing becomes possible. And the key factor is that a bit, every one of you know what is a bit. I need not explain it, students. So the basic operation of bit makes this system of bits into a Boolean algebra. Here 1 plus 0 is equal to 0, 1.0 in this way. It's a Boolean algebra. But you cannot have meaningless. In quantum operations, when you have in place of bits, in place of bits, when you have qubits, then you have a superposition principle like this one. Yes. If this is a qubit alpha and beta is a qubit, then you can make A alpha plus B beta. A and B are complex numbers. So this is important, that in a bit you have only 0, 1, but here you have a superposition. It may give you that there is some similarity with the concepts of fuzziness. Actually, it is not. These are very different concepts. Where we are passing from Boolean algebra to the structure of linear algebra, and particularly this linear algebra actually gives you the structure of Hilbert space. A Hilbert space is that mathematical structure in which the qubit resides. That is, all the mathematical operations which are to be carried out in the quantum computer should be mathematically operations on the Hilbert space. This is the very special structure which is to be employed for the purpose of quantum computer, and this gives actually the leverage and advantage. The most important thing about the not on the quantum computer, about quantum technology in general, is the idea of entanglement. Even when the things are light years away, what it is, that suppose there is some origin at which one electron is born and it goes in this direction, and the other electron is born and it goes in this direction. The electrons are spin. What do you mean by this one? It is rotating in this way and it is rotating in the reverse way to set a model mechanically, but this model is out and out not wrong but inadequate. Just to give you just a link between your thinking and reality, because quantum reality is something different, very different from the ordinary senses of everyday experience. It is something which cannot be visualized. Just you visualize a spinning top or like that, but it has the analogy, mathematical analogy, and analogy of a reality. Perhaps that reality is away from our sensory reality, that it has a correspondence like this one. Light years, and it is going in this direction and this is going in this direction. Still, there is a correlation. This correlation is out and out quantum in nature, having no classical counterpart. What do you mean by having no classical counterpart? Simply is that you cannot view it or visualize it through any mechanical model at your hand. You cannot make it. By a mechanical model, we mean the classical mechanical model. Just I can show you that this is this. It cannot be shown like this one, but it exists in nature. It very much exists and it is real, and it is the core reality. And this is that I told, this correlation is purely quantum mechanical. And this is how these things are to be understood and maneuvered. Now, the fascinating thing is that entanglement was first introduced by Einstein along with Podolsky and Rosen. If it is a fascinating history, if you look into it, then you will see that this is actually the famous EPR paradox, which was giving almost a death blow on the concepts of quantum mechanics when it was introduced in 1935. Anyway, quantum mechanics was finally saved through elaborate arguments by many proponents of quantum physics. And these arguments, different experiments and etc., brought series of Nobel Prizes. But it is even more amazing that the conceptual issue which Einstein put forward, its possible use appeared only in 1993, that is about 60 years after the concept was introduced. For long 60 years, the human race could not think that this concept is really of any practical value. And once it was realized, a door was opened. Yes, how can we use it? One after the other, the uses were made. But there is one great but in it. How can we use it? Firstly, when it comes in touch with the environment, it generally is destroyed. That it is a very fragile resource to use technical. So, in any quantum computer or in any quantum machine, we should have a sufficient insulation. And second thing is that it should have controllability. Because as you know, in any technology, if you cannot control the machine, then how can you use that? And in the process of controllability, it will be exposed to nature. And by through an exposure of nature, the thing will go off. It is so fragile. So it is difficult to put them together and make out something. Very, very difficult. Only today we can do it. We can do it in a very restrictive and protective environment. That is, sometimes we require it to be in the cryogenic environment. That is, in a very low temperature environment where we should keep the device below 2 or 3 degree Kelvin or like that. So it's definitely in a very protective artificial environment, the demonstration of the technology is now possible. And if you, as you can simply imagine, that if you want to have an economically viable quantum machine, then perhaps a long time is ahead of us, during which time we should overcome our limitations of, or rather compulsions of putting the quantum machine in such protective environments. Some useful things are, what are the ways by which we can maintain the quantum machines? Ion traps, nuclear magnetic resonance, and very useful is cavity quantum electrodynamics. This is a concept which is understood actually in the domain of quantum field theory. And you must realize that quantum field theory is yet an incomplete science. So these are the ways by which today the normal quantum machines are fabricated, and the challenge remains. No one can show you that this is a quantum gate which is serving your purpose. But people can show you that this is a quantum gate which has to be taken up. And once it is taken up, then what happens? You will simply outperform any type of supercomputers. I should say supercomputers, that you can outperform them. Communication. I will not take much time. As I told you, that the first use of quantum entanglement came in 1993 through a theoretical paper. Now this is the genesis of quantum computer science. Today you can see, I will refer you, students, you are too young to realize the importance of this. But take it that in 2020, only in 2020, a satellite-based teleportation protocol was made possible. It was reported that it was 11-20 kilometer range. Before that, 10 to 15 kilometer range teleportation was possible under the earth, some kilometers below the earth, where there is less effect of neutrino or other cosmic particles. In that situation, that could be performed. Now we can perform it on satellite-based telecommunication, as you can see. What is an entanglement? I showed you. And the two parties, one on Earth and the other in the satellite, they can communicate through this one. But there is one limitation to it. Perhaps even today it appears to be indispensable that the whole process should be supported by or assisted by one, as you can see, the sender and the receiver classical communication. That is the ordinary communication you make over your electromagnetic means, that is the telephonic or your mobile communication or like that. It should be supported by that. Once supported, then the technology stands. And technology demonstration is now over 11-20 kilometers. This is remarkable. And just when it came up, it came to military use. Because in the whole process, certain elements of confidentiality, certain elements of security come up, which is almost impossible. I say that it is you cannot prove that the probability of breaking it is zero, but you can prove that just improving certain factors, you can make the probability tend to zero. It comes up. And so it was immediately put to the military communications. So I will come, one thing is that the speciality of the new technology, as I was telling, that every technology has its own limitations. And never by a technology we can claim that we will have a mastery over nature. Now in your quantum technology, it can give you many leverages. It can give you more power of technology. It can give you more advantages. But its basic features are, it is probabilistic in nature. Why it is what is its implication? That there will be cases of failures. Unavoidable cases of failures. That is, by sending through teleportation and etc., you cannot avoid the fact that it will fail. And in a percentage of cases, it will definitely fail. Second is that no duplication is allowed, that is, no cloning is allowed. This is a very important and interesting factor. Cloning is generally not, in the press there are many discussions, etc. Now, it is the fact that no quantum element can be duplicated. So, that is, if you have two identical files that you want to delete one, not possible. So the implications are not really limited to the domain of quantum computing. It is a general principle which pervades the whole possible range of quantum technology. So it is, at the same time, it is its strength as well as its weakness. I am talking more of weakness, but it has its own strengths. That when you cannot replicate something, then it is unique. So if by technology you can have some unique type of thing, but more discussion will carry us to some other domains. I think I have tried to give you some idea of quantum technology, and your Professor Jana is here. I must be stopping now. Otherwise, I will be giving some filler that just 5 or 6 sentences and then stop. So, in this way. So, thank you very much. And lastly, I will tell you. Lastly, I will tell you that I am, if any of you are seriously interested in quantum technology, I say seriously interested, then you can look into my website, in my institute, Department of Mathematics, and in my institute. There you can find my contacts over, email contacts, and any me, I will try to answer, if you are interested. Okay, thank you everyone.
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for your interesting presentation. So, yeah, we have a question for you, sir, by Professor Dostal.
Well, okay, therefore you asked also about teleportation. Therefore my question is, when the teleportation of human beings came to be, which century, how many hundreds of years, when the people will be teleported to different planets or something like this. You have written no deletion, no duplication. It must be fulfilled fully, and therefore, then I will be with teleportation satisfied, because 32 hours flight from trip from Brno to Haldia was terrible. Therefore, it will be a few seconds, it will be much more better in teleportation.
10 to the power minus 72, 32 seconds, and you can come up here.
Yes, therefore, when you expect this teleportation, yeah?
So it's really interesting. So it's really interesting. Let's see, one thing is that it is physical science. There are certain thoughts, even among top scientists, that they say that for the ultimate survival of the human being, we should go to space. Question is that whether this physiology of human being, of Homo sapiens, will allow us to live in an environment or to travel in an environment which is other than the Earth's environment. Even you are coming from a part of the globe where temperature is less and not feeling comfortable if you go out at 12 or 1 at noon. And if I think that I will be comfortable in a situation where gravity is the 100th of Earth or 100 times of Earth's gravity, my body weight is 80 kilo, and then with 8,000 kilogram of body weight in that environment of the planet, if I feel or if I have an idea that I will be very comfortable and more so I will be able to live, then possibly I am extrapolating too much of ideas. And in that way, connecting communication and information with the biological, truly biological living types of things, set aside a human being, let us take a cell and want to send it somewhere else by certain means, be it electromagnetic or quantum mechanical. Firstly, it requires the fact that whether we can at all do that by maintaining life. We have very little idea of effect of quantum mechanical types of machines on life. Especially now there is a new branch coming up which is called the quantum biology. Perhaps by another 3 or 4 decades, when quantum biology is going to tell us something more about the quantum effects on biology, we will be in a position to give at least some sketch of ideas that what is going to happen to living beings when they are exposed to such transfer through quantum means. But that again will be next generation problem. Possibly we will not be in that or to hear the answer. Okay, thank you. No problem. I am here to answer your questions, if I can.
Sir, in a book I read that general relativity opposes quantum mechanics. Why do you say that general relativity opposes quantum mechanics, and why it is happening so?
I don't know in which book you have read it, but if you ask me whether general relativity and quantum mechanics are in crossroads, I will say no. There is, yes, true. It is true that if you want to derive one from the other, or want to make a combination of these two, then it is difficult, if not impossible. And these are two ways of addressing two different aspects of nature. But I have not seen anywhere in scientific literature that they are in loggerheads or they are opposing each other.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, another question.
Sir, my question is that, can you tell me that how matter is formed by relating with the Higgs energy field?
I cannot see. Yes?
Sir, I'm telling that, can you tell me that how matter is formed by relating it with the Higgs energy field?
So this is a question of string theory and at best of quantum field theory.
Yes, sir.
So perhaps I can tell you if you make a private communication with me. But this is the new technology which I am talking of is not covering this topic. But if you are really interested, then I can answer it, the standard answer which are available in literature, I can give it to you through a private communication. But it is an elaborate answer and should be understood technically. Take it that any question of science should be understood technically, not in qualitative terms. In quantitative and technical terms, especially the questions arising in subatomic world, should be taken technically. And that requires elaborate description of mathematics and etc. But still, the question answer is there. I can give you references and I can also instruct you. But this is quite unrelated to the new technology which we are talking of here.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, how will the new technology affect the environment? I mean, how will this show an effect on the nature?
Yes, this is a very good question. This is a very good question. The nature is adversely affected. Adversely means in the sense of, in our sense, it is adversely affected. What do you mean by the adverse affection of nature? That is, the nature is changed in such a way that this is creating effects which is going to be bad for human psychology and human physiology. Whether quantum effects can do that. It can. It can. But since we have not yet tested the quantum technology, it is too early to extrapolate on it or to give an idea of how it is going to affect, whether with a quantum computer our brain is going to be affected by some sort of quantum wave if it is discovered someday at all. It will be just a conjecture, not a scientific answer. So for that answer to come, we will possibly have to wait for several decades to come. And you are the people who will work out this answer. The young scientists, would-be scientists and technologists. It is your duty to find this answer as you advance with your knowledge and education. But at present, no answer is available with the scientific literature.
Thank you, sir.
Is there any other question?
Good evening, sir.
Yes.
So my question is whether this new technology have the power to bring consciousness in artificial intelligence?
Now the question is, what is consciousness?
To bring, in Hindi we call it chetna.
In Hindi you call it chetna, I understand. And what is understood in chetna in Indian context and in Western context, if you take Kant or some other philosopher, or the philosophy of existentialism or the other philosophers of modern times, then the two things are not one and the same. But still, we mean something by consciousness, that it can do something arbitrarily over inert nature. If I take this one, no physical effect is known to have the capacity to create chetana or consciousness. No physical effect. Even there are philosophies explaining the basis and foundations of quantum mechanics, which claim that in the objective reality there is an element of subjectivism or consciousness. There are certain philosophies definitely, but if you ask my opinion is that these are not borne out by experiments, and what is not borne out by experiments cannot be accepted as something like granted in any physical, in any physical situation or in any physical theory. That is like that.
Sir, and one more question. It is similar. It is basically similar to my previous question. The next question is whether this new quantum technology can bring out the real DNA structure of our brain, like how it's working and how can whether it can solve these questions.
That is one of the questions which are being dealt with in. They are wanting to give a quantum mechanical explanation of the DNA structure and other genetic questions. Sure, but the first question you ask, how this is related to how the life process is on Earth. Because if you look back at the first 3 seconds of creation, sure, this is a very great cosmological question, which is just embarrassing the cosmologists for quite a long time, for a few decades. Sure, how the consciousness could come up, this question is an unsettled question. From different directions of science, it is an unsettled question, and we cannot shed any light on it as with the present state of knowledge, either from the biological point of view or from the quantum mechanical point of view or from any other point of view. And the question is very ancient. If you look into Upanishads, you will find the question, Kena prathama prana prahiti yukta, how the first life was set in motion. The question is very interesting, how the amino acids are getting activated and how they are getting packed to form a cell. The question remains to be answered, but unfortunately no answer is yet available with science.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So any other question, I will be happy to answer.
So you talked about various quantum technologies.
Yes.
My question on quantum computer.
Yes.
So if quantum computer is not foolproof from hacking, how can we make it foolproof from hacking practices?
You see, that as I told you, I cannot show you a device that this is a quantum computer because it is not yet generated. Sure. Still, we have certain basic principles and we believe that basing on those principles, we can one day bring out a machine provided we can satisfy certain conditions or we can make certain restrictions on it. And if you look into those principles, then those principles will tell you, just like no cloning and etc., it requires an elaborate discussion if you want to learn it very seriously. Those things say that once created, one virtue of that will be that it will be foolproof for hacking. This question can only in principle be answered. But what is, possibly you cannot create the whole environment, you can satisfy the environment partially. Then definitely the machine which will come up will not satisfy your ambitions. What is going to happen will depend on your work, on your efforts, and in which path the technology will lead us in future. Okay.
You talked about quantum code. So how
I did not talk about much of quantum code, I just told yes, little bit of that.
how can a hacker can access this code?
It is in cryptography. There are excellent books for that. If you want to have some references, just mail me, I will send you the references.
So can you elaborate more on quantum code? How it made up of?
How?
What is this? And in details, sir.
In details. That I told you. It is not possible that I discuss it within a small span of time. But I can give you references. Just mail me, I will send you references. This is a quite an elaborate study. But if you are prepared and that much interested to make up that study, you can do it. The literature and books are quite lucid. And I think if you have interest, then you will have an enjoyable academics through it. This much I can tell you. And another thing, the mathematics is used is not very much, too much out of your scope. You can well manage it. Definitely. That I can assure you. Once you are a graduate and you have taken your mathematics courses which are taught to you in your graduate, if you have taken it seriously, then this gives you enough background for studying those things. And this is one of the reasons that mathematics taught in graduate courses, especially what it is in your course, if it is taken very seriously by you, not only in this context, but also in other contexts, I can say that this is going to help you if you are interested in furtherance of academics or research. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
Good evening, sir. I have a question as Professor asked. There's a thing called teleportation, right?
Yes.
And I read a few months ago that somewhere they were hypothesizing that teleportation is nothing but disassembling something and then assembling it later somewhere else.
Yes.
Correct? But according to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, we can't just calculate both the speed and the position.
No.
So if we are calculating that the speed is instantaneous, since we are disassembling and assembling it, how can we calculate the position? This is a purely hypothetical question. But
no, your question carries substance. Yes. Heisenberg's uncertainty principle does not contradict the teleportation process. Why? Because Heisenberg's uncertainty principles del x del p greater than equal to some natural constant h cross or like that, h cross by 2, whatever be. It is understood in one framework, but teleportation acts in some other framework. So the frameworks are different, perspectives are different, and there is no contradiction between the two. More generally, I must say that the process of teleportation in the framework of quantum theory does not contradict in any part of quantum theory, not to speak of Heisenberg's principle, which is only one of those. Okay, this can be proved rigorously, mathematically and rigorously this can be proved.
Is there any more questions? All right. Okay. Any more questions from your side? I guess.
Thank you very much.
So, thank you, Professor, for your nice delivering lecture. So, I request Professor Peter Dostal, sir, please hand over the certificate to Professor D.S. Choudhury. Sir, please. before concluding our session, I request our speaker, sir, please you just go our office. Then we have some discussion with our student. Okay. So first I request Professor, please now you go our office. We will meet there. So professors. Now, madam, you have an announcement. Student, please wait. Okay, ওটা আচ্ছা আমি একটু বলে নিই আচ্ছা বলেন okay please carry on.
All right.
Thank you.
My heartfelt gratitude to both our very engaging speakers for today, Professor Dostal and Professor Chaudhary. It was indeed a very engaging session. I mean, in both parts, it was really indeed very engaging. My dear students, thank you once again for your active participation in this talks today. And I have an announcement, especially for students who are going to run poster presentation. So the date for poster presentation, please write it down. The date for your poster presentation is 25th of May 2022. 25th of May 2022. Just a moment. Please write down, your poster presentation is on the 25th and it will be from 4:30 onwards. Mind you, the judgment and presentation will be 4:30 p.m. onwards. But, write it down, but you have to start pinning the poster from during the lunch hour, that is between 1:20 to 2:30 p.m. During that time only, you have to pin up your posters, respective posters. Another point, please write down. In each of your posters, if you have not mentioned your poster number, please mention it. You can write it on a white sheet of paper, small white sheet. That is who have not written, please paste it, write it on a paper clearly so that the judge can understand what is the poster number. And the poster number is mentioned in the abstract acceptance mail which your mentors or respective guides have shared with you. All right? And whenever you have any doubt, please connect with your guide. Whenever you are in doubt, please connect with your respective guide under whom you are carrying. So what I'll do is, from today onwards, start preparing, look at the poster. If the poster number is not mentioned, write it down and paste it on your poster from today. So I'll repeat, the date is 25th of May. The time for pinning up the poster is 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. Do not delay. Beyond that, you will not be allowed. Okay? Now, I request sir to make his announcement.
Okay. Thank you, students. In our department, total 1150 students take admission in first year. You know, and approximately 300 students participate in this symposium. The remaining students will attend tomorrow's class regularly. I request all our faculty members, they will take their classes. If any student absent from their class as well as here, I will take official action. So you must come in proper time with proper uniform and you cooperate with us. The faculty members from outside, they are so much happy for our institute. I will give, if I get tomorrow, we have another talk, Professor Amit Konar. Have you heard the name Amit Konar from Jadavpur University? So So we have invited so many good speakers in different domain of AI, ML, DS. So my humble request of 300 students, please cooperate with us. No signature, no attendance means no certificate will be given. And if you do not have any certificate, you know the official power I have working as a HOD. I will take action. Please cooperate and sincere. So thank you for coming. I am amazing that the maximum number question asked by the first year students. Okay, thank you once again. I have given some disturbance to you. I am extremely sorry because I have taken a lot of pressure. So thank you for cooperation. Tomorrow morning, please come and cooperate with us. Thank you. Thank you.
Tomorrow morning starts at 9:30 sharp. Tomorrow's program starts at 9:30 sharp.
Okay, some tea has been arranged there, so you just take some tea. Okay.
আমি হল পরিষ্কার করবো কোথায় ও তো কাল লেগে যাবে
কালকে লাগবে আচ্ছা যেটা মনে হচ্ছে এই যে ট্রে ওয়ালাগুলো কি জলের তাকে বলবেন
না আমি নিয়ে চলে যাবো ওই
আগেও দুটো কিন্তু পর্দা পড়ে আছে রেস্টুরেন্ট ডেস্ক
হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ
ঠিক আছে এটা দিয়ে দিতে হবে
আর কালকে কি সব লাগবে তো হ্যাঁ পরিষ্কার করে কি চাবি কি সিকিউরিটি 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 তো হ্যাঁ ঠিক আছে দুটো ব্যাগ রয়ে গেছে ওটা বসে বসে কাজে আমার আছে না না আমি চাবি জমা করব বিজেপি করবে তো হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ চলো চাবি দাও বাইরে টেবিলে কিছু করতে হবে না 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 কালকে তো কোনো রেজিস্ট্রেশনের কোনো গল্প নেই না ভালো চাবি দিয়েছে চাবিটা জমা দিয়ে দিতে তুমি এটাকে পুরা না ভেতরে জানা নেই ওই পাশে লোকটা বসে কোন ধারে ও ধারে এটা একটা কাগজটা আমি ওগুলা সব পুনা একটা টুয়ালা আছে নি বেডশিট বেডশিট আছে নি এটা একটা বান্ডেল করে দিন এটা থাকবে একটা পাল্টি দিয়ে একটা নতুন দিয়ে দাও বুঝছো না পরিষ্কার আছে সব বোতল আমি ফালাই দেব। আর এই জলের বোতলগুলো থাকবে নতুনগুলো আশেপাশে করে দিচ্ছে সেগুলো থাকবে যে কোনো একটা পূর্ণা গিয়ে বান্ডেল করে দাও আমি বোতল কেন আইনি যাবো থাক আইনি যাবো কেন এগুলো কোনো অসুবিধা নেই তাও একটা বলো যাবো মেনে আমার দিয়ে তো পৌঁছে গাড়ি করে বল হ্যাঁ স্যার বল আমরা ইয়াসতে দিচ্ছি আইনে সবাই বেরিয়ে গেছে আরে মোবাইলটা রয়েছিল বলে তাই তো অনুভব সরকারে করছি কোন গানে মোবাইল রাখছো হ্যাঁ মোবাইল তো ওইটা এই তো এখন অবধি চলছে ভিডিও চলছে